What's good, YouTube? American RX at it again. Um, Shout out to the subscribers, shout out to the viewers. Thank you for being a part of this platform. Um, Shout out to the West Indian Tribal Society. Links will be in the description for the GoFundMe. So this evening I'll be building on the deforestation of Europe during colonial times, when they were building ships to do the voyages across the Atlantic to come over here. Now, this was you got to put into consideration that this was actually another challenge that they faced as far as voyaging here as well, because they needed timber or wood to make these ships. All right, so if they don't have enough, if they deforest, how was it possible for them to make these many voyages to carry these so-called slaves, all these so-called slaves over here? And I'm saying it would be in order for them to be on point, they have to be very accurate in how they calculate what they are doing as to transferring people over here, because it wasn't that type of party where they could just load ships with many people. They didn't have enough ships to begin with because of deforestation. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it in that perspective so you could see things from a different angle. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's get to it. Historical texts have documented the countless technologies, ideas, diseases, plants, and animals the European ships delivered around the world during the age of exploration. However, these texts fail to include one key cargo item: deforestation. European shipbuilding triggered an epidemic of forest depletion that gradually spread to lands they encountered. Beginning in the early 14th century, wood fueled an increased production of exploratory sea vessels. Loss of trees coincided with the rapid rate of shipbuilding. Eventually, Europeans exploited their timber reserves to such an extreme that they began looking elsewhere for wood, including colonies in North America and Southeast Asia. Okay, so if they had shortage of lumber or wood to make these ships, and they had to look into North America to make these wooden ships, okay, how is it that wouldn't it make more sense that they were taking people from here to go over to the other side to do trade? Wouldn't it make more sense that they would take enslaved people from here and take them over there to exchange for something of value? Just think about it. With newfound resources, the European shipbuilding machine churned on. Yet before long, deforestation also became an issue in the colonial areas. Okay? So in the colonial areas where they were deforested, so they didn't even have enough trees to build these so-called ships to take so many so-called slaves, right? So as I'm saying, everything is about money and careful calculation. Say it wasn't like how you thought it was, okay, or how you were told or how you were taught, okay. Although shipbuilding played an integral role in a period of European advancement, it devastated not only the European environment but the forests of other continents. Prior to the age of exploration, hardwood trees blanketed all of Europe to form a forest. Comparing size to the Amazon basin, forest density was intense, such that scattered clearings must have appeared like islets in an ocean of green. Okay. Nevertheless, as humans discovered the value of wood as a fuel for warmth, deforestation followed close behind. The progression of human technologies presented more uses for timber. Eventually, wood became a staple in a wide range of manufacturing processes, among them shipbuilding, Production of sea vessels put extreme pressure on the oldest and largest trees. So this is all we had big huge trees over here, and this is what they did. They cut these trees down. Okay, they deforested. Okay. In European forests, the massive tree trunks that were years in the making were also best suited for immense hulls of open sea ships. Okay? For every ship built, the environment lost some of its oldest flora members. Okay? Were unfortunately also the hardest to replace. So you gotta understand they had shipwrecks, a lot of shipwrecks. So what happened when they lost these ships at sea? Where are they gonna get the wood to replace these ships? Shipbuilding was also closely intertwined with another forest-consuming industry, metallurgy, especially iron production. Iron comprised weaponry and structural support aboard many sea vessels. Because the production of iron required high temperatures, the demand for firewood grew to almost insatiable proportion. Thus, the amount of timber invested in shipbuilding included more than just the lumber for the hulls. As David Morse points out, the trend in metallurgy history dictated that wherever iron making took over, it did away with forests. Morse, in effect, shipbuilding and its association with iron production impacted the forest landscape twofold. Okay? This is an example of how the ships look when they're building it from the wood. Okay? Alright? This is an example. Alright? Deforestation. Alright, so a lot of trees make this one ship. Deforestation effects of increased shipbuilding was most visible in the change of Great Britain's landscape during the 15th to 18th centuries. Those who traveled across Ireland at this time reported that one could ride all day and not see a single tree, an image that contrasts sharply with the carpet of trees that covered the area only centuries before. Don't Terry, of course, the price the environment paid for shipbuilding was not merely aesthetic. The loss of wind protection afforded by trees increased soil erosion and English farms. Following the construction of the British Navy during the reign of Elizabeth I, poor farmers in need of fuel burned straw and dried manure, robbing the soil of nutrients and further decreasing farmland quality, right? Otherwise, they were starving over there as well. Undoubtedly, the ecosystem that once thrived in European forests crumbled as their habitats disappeared. The lack of watershed protection also led to increased stream erosion and altered the path of many waterways. Right? Deforestation. Quite apparently, shipbuilding is effacing the end of the entire forest landscapes, cost the European environment dearly. Okay, so just to put it in perspective for you. Tragically, the European environment would not be the only one to pay, as wood became a scarce commodity in Europe. Explorers began to tap into overseas timber resources to supply the ever-booming shipbuilding machine. In fact, imperial strategy focused on forest reserves so much that empires rose and fell based on the availability of forest. Okay, Brown. Two examples serve this point, as well as the North American and Southeast Asian colonies. During the 16th century, the well forests in New England countryside attracted British and French explorers and provided an ample timber resource for these conquerors. At first, the abundance of New England would seem endless. By 1880, firewood had surpassed all other energy sources and reached its employment peak. Ancient distribute undisturbed repose. Soon, however, the immorality of the European forest was spoiled by the appearance of deforestation indicators in the environment. These effects mirror those of European environment, including severe soil and stream erosion. In one case, soil from the recently deforested hillside dammed a river, providing an unfortunate example of deforestation. Okay? Effects intersecting ancient undisturbed repose. So you see how many trees they cut down? See that? Destruction, you know what I'm saying? The appearance of familiar deforestation consequences in one colony did not prevent Europeans from continuing their quest for timber on other continents. Nearly 2 centuries after the discovery of a New England forest reserve. So tell me this, if they gotta go to another continent to get timber, they have to build a ship from that continent, right? Right? So if they're gonna come here and build a ship, say in America, they have to be careful. They have to be careful in how they plan things, because it's all about proper management of resources, right? They ain't gonna just get up and go get some slaves because they got ships. Okay, they have to be trading things. Okay, so they have to trade people for other minerals. So of course, if they're on the continent of North America, they're gonna take people from here to over there. Makes more sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Because according to this, the only other continents they went to was North America, or the Americas, and Southeast Asia. I haven't seen anything about Africa yet. Okay? So just to put it in perspective for you. So, nearly 2 centuries after the discovery of New England forest reserves, Spanish, Dutch, and Portuguese explorers unearthed a gold mine of shipbuilding and repair minerals in Southeast Asia. Right, so this is where you had forgot what they call it, the Manila, I think. Then they colonized Manila. It was for the wood, for the lumber. Okay, and they were taking chinos over here, right? So it makes sense. Our brief history: as early as 1677. Dutch rulers bargained with leaders of the Javanese to gain access to the rich teak forests of northern coast, right? Expectedly, deforestation and its eroding effects soon followed. By mid-19th century, many Southeast Asian governments, most notably Java and Thailand, attempted to halt further forest exhaustion by devising systems of forest management and forest laws, right? Despite these valiant efforts, the damage done could not be entirely reversed. Acres and acres of forest, thousands of years in the making, had been withheld down in the name of European shipbuilding and could never be fully recovered. Okay? Undeniably, the steady incline of European shipbuilding bolstered the travels and that marked the turning point in the cultures around the world. These sturdy wooden vessels, Europeans successfully exchanged ideas and technology with once isolated communities. So you gotta put it in perspective, right? You gotta put it in a proper perspective by looking at it from this angle, okay? Right? Without the combination of storms, wars, and losing a lot of ships, how would they replace these ships if they didn't have wood to replace it? Okay? Europeans successfully exchanged ideas, technologies with once isolated communities. While this increased communication was key in global progression of human culture, it occurred at a hefty cost to forests and the environment in general. Are the Europeans to be blamed for this damage? At the time, no feasible alternative shipbuilding materials existed besides lumber. Okay? The Europeans were simply not that technologically advanced. The only two options were use wood and sail to new lands, or refuse timber, use and resist gnawing temptation to travel abroad. Thus, the deforestation caused by European shipbuilding exemplifies a conflict that has plagued humans throughout history. The inevitable and seemingly unavoidable tension between human progression and the welfare of the environment. Alright, so I'm gonna do a follow-up video on this about how colonization has destroyed a lot of the American fauna, okay? And I'm gonna do a follow-up, so thanks for viewing. Remember to look in the description, links in the description, West Indian Tribal Society GoFundMe. Thanks for viewing again, and peace out. All right.